Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Boston Straight Shooters. This is the show we talk about the Boston Celtics, the Boston Bruins, Boston Red Sox, and the New England Patriots. And boy, do we have a lot to talk about. Before we jump into it, let me introduce you to my co-host, Mr. Steve, also known as Negative Ned, and I'm sure he's got a lot of stuff to rant about tonight. I'm your other host, Frank, and Steve. First, before we dive into the sports, how was your week and how's things going?
Uh, Not bad. Can't complain. How's yours?
Uh, I could complain, but nobody cares. You know what I mean? Nobody cares.
Yeah,
That's just how it is. That's life.
I hear
All
you.
right. So we got a lot to talk about because the Patriots had made some news. Obviously, the Bruins made some news, which is kind of not shocking, according to you, Negative Ned. The Celtics, they did some things, and this week with especially starting out with New York Knicks, and now they're making some news now because they seem to be struggling with Washington, as we speak, and the Red Sox. So I want to start talking about the Red Sox first because I know you got the notes where they did some things between now and then. But I think we should talk about they dropped out. I don't know if you saw it, Steve. You get a chance first. Did you get a chance to go to Netflix and see the new special that the Red Sox did on the 2004 World Series run? Did you
No,
see
it's on
that?
my list. It's on my list though. It
Yeah,
came out yesterday, right?
yeah. I got a chance to watch it late last night.
I
So
didn't get to watch it. No.
yeah. All right, so let's just dive in first. And what's your thoughts on the hiring in this assistant GM? Because I want to talk about this special just for a tad bit and before and get that out of the way because I feel we would probably go right past it. But what's your thoughts on hiring this new GM that everybody's talking about?
I hate it, and I think they should cancel the season for the Red Sox and just they're in last place already. I'm so sick of this analytic-driven drivel. Uh, they're hiring the Tampa Bay Rays director of predictive modeling. I mean, what the bleep? It's like,
Hmm.
oh, we predict you're going to be 43% make the playoffs or 23% make the playoffs, so we're not going to do anything at the deadline. I'm so sick of all that garbage. I don't like this at all. I hate it. No one's using the eyeball test anymore. They're pissing me off, and I'm not in favor of this. One iota. That tells me that even though the words coming out of their mouth are like, hey, yeah, we're going to spend to get pitches and all this crap, they're not going to do a damn thing. And so I hope they fall flat on their face again. Then they're going to get what they deserve, and I hope the ballpark's empty. And I just I hope they fall flat on their face. Now I'm done with them.
See, I knew you were going to say that, and that's the reason why I wanted to bring it up. The special is called "Comeback." It's the 2004 Boston Red Sox. No, I knew you were going to say that because the one thing I noticed that I seem to have forgotten about the Red Sox is when they brought in Theo Epstein. He's the one who brought in and implemented, as we all know, he's the one who implemented this whole analytics thing. And they thought they were getting Billy Bean from obviously from the Oakland A's and everything else, but Grady Little and those guys, they were running baseball operations and everything else by the eye test, what they felt was great. Theo Epstein came in under the 28-year-old kid. He has no leadership experience. Everything. He comes in with this analytics idea and everything else because he learned a lot of it from Billy Bean. And ever since then, believe it or not, this is exactly how the Red Sox have been losing. And when they won, that's how they won. You know what I mean, Steve. So the four World Series they won by by getting people and mixing the match and everything else. So I wanted to ask you,
Francona used more of the eye test, though. Sorry to cut you off. Go ahead.
yeah. So I wanted to ask you. I wasn't trying to say who's using more or less. I'm just saying I wanted to ask you what your thoughts are. How long would it take before they move away from it? Because I'm thinking if they have one more bad season, then they might be one of the teams and say, you know what, this analytics thing, mathematically it might say A, but we might have to throw this out the window because now look how many seasons we haven't made the playoffs. And get thrown out the window. You know what I mean, Steve? What's your thoughts?
So how many more years does Alex Cora have? Right? Did he extend for 3 more years beyond this
Yeah,
one?
yeah, he did
It's going to
extend.
be 3 more years of this with him. And if they're losing all 3 of those years and they don't make the playoffs those 3 years, he's going to be gone, and then they're going to scrap it because you know what? They have him tied up. They're not going to scrap it while he's in place. If he's
Yeah,
bought
but
in, if he's bought in, and look, he's better at the eyeball part of it. In
right.
2018, he was pushing all the right buttons. That's what helped them win the championship. Wasn't all the stupid analytic nonsense. Not that there wasn't any at all, but there was less. And now
Right.
there's going to be more. And he seems to have bought into it, and I'm not. I'm not in favor of it. So that's what it's going to take. They're going to do this for 3 more years, make us suffer. and they're not going to make the playoffs, and they're going to finish 500, third place, fifth, last place, whatever. That's what it's going to take. Then at some point, the light bulbs are going to come on and be like, okay, we had this new guy for 3 years. It didn't work. Bye.
Yeah, you know what, Steve? I always agree with you in certain things. With this one, I'm going to have to 100% agree with you, 110% agree with you, because except I want to throw in one caveat. I don't even know if Alex Cora is going to last 3 years. I think he'd want to stay for 3 years, but I think they might fire him and blame it on him. You know what I mean? I think the blame will fall completely on his shoulders with this analytics crap. And I wasn't a fan of it up 2 years ago. But Steve,
It
how
all
do you
started when Hein Bloom got hired 4 years ago, Frank.
right? But how do you stick with the analytics when you don't give the managers the players to continue to use the analytics? Like, explain that to me like I'm a 4-year-old, because I don't understand if you're going by analytics, but you're not giving the guys the players that the analytics is showing you will help you win. That's literally like peanut butter and not even jelly. It's peanut butter and ham. You know what I mean?
What they're trying to do is they're trying to use a model where instead of having one guy that gives you 30 homers and 100 RBIs, they're trying to maximize it with 3 guys at lesser pay.
Right.
And so that hamstrings the manager because now he's got to mix match 3 guys for 2 positions, and it doesn't work because now and the talent of those guys. I'll just use Juan Soto from the Yankees.
Right.
40 homers, 120 RBI, blah blah, $30 million. They're going to take that money and divvy it up amongst 3 different guys that are going to give you 8 homers each, or whatever it is, 10 homers each, and maybe a 250 batting average. And it's all about matchups. And this guy hits good against this pitcher, and this guy hits good against this one, and this guy's good against lefties, and this guy's not. And that's all the situational nonsense that these numbers drive, and they don't drive what's actually going on during the game. Football's doing the same thing. We get into that later, but I just think that it's overkill. Listen, a guy that hits 40 homers and knocks in 120 runs is, the talent is up there. These guys are using, as I call it, Ocean State job lot bums, and they're going to keep using those bums and using those stupid numbers in analytics, and it's going to keep driving the team to the ground, and they're never going to have stability.
Right. Well, let me throw this out to you too. The same analytics that they were using, years and years ago, especially that you see, put in your face with 4 days of October, and of course the 2004 Red Sox, new documentary that they just put out. One thing that you see is that they realized with pitching that they had to get better pitching. You know what I mean? And they had to get, instead of breaking it up, the same way you just said, instead of breaking up the pitching and the relievers with let's say eight pitchers, they realized let's get down to 6. You know what I mean? Why haven't they, used the analytics? Why haven't they applied the analytics system more so to the pitching when they see that the Red Sox bullpen is one of the worst in the Major League Baseball? You know what I mean? If not the worst. Why haven't they done that for that? Why do they pick and choose when they want to use the analytics? Explain that to me.
Well, because they're trying to use lesser guys. You heard Breslow when they asked him about getting a number 1 starter in the offseason. He says, well, we have 3 guys that kind of pitch like number 1s at different times during the season. So that tells me right there, they're not actually going to go after a $30 million pitcher. They're gonna force feed these guys into number 1, number 2, and number 3 when they're really not. We've been talking about it all year. Right. And so the same thing with the bullpen. Instead of going out and getting, you have Kenley Jansen. He's a true closer. A couple of years ago, we talked about it when they blew 28 saves. They didn't have a real closer until they got him. And they tried to cheap out and use the closer by committee crap. They keep trying to put Garrett Whitlock in the starting rotation. The guy keeps blowing his arm out. Will you please put him in the bullpen where that's his strength? Build the thing the way that is to use the guy's strengths. And not keep trying to shove a square peg into a round hole. And that's why those analytics don't work. And look, Alex Cora said it last year. He'll probably say it again. We need guys to have options to go back and forth between Worcester because of the injuries. And so you're going to get more of these dumpster dive guys that come up here for 1 or 2 games, and then they're not ready. They're not available to pitch, and they have a doubleheader or something, or somebody got hurt, so they got to put that guy back in Worcester. That one day that they had 15 transactions with the pitchers, that you're going to see more of that nonsense. Instead of getting me some durable 6th, 7th, and 8th inning guys that aren't gonna fall apart, and one guy that could be the long reliever. I mean, that's the way you build the bullpen. Get these solid 6, 7, 8 guys and your closer, and then get a long reliever, and then you don't have to keep bringing these idiots up and down from Worcester. I mean, but and the whole thing about using openers, you know why they have to use openers? Because they don't have an ace.
Right. Two things. One, I think that I think the Red Sox are going to stick with this because they had their hot moment, their hot streak, during the season. Especially, I don't know if there was a 15 or 20 game moment when they were doing really, really well. I
It was
forgot what.
early in the year between
Yeah,
May and June, right?
yeah.
15
Or
out
was
of
it
20
June,
or something like
July?
that.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
they fell apart after the All-Star break, so it was before that.
Yeah. So I guess my point is do you think that they're being able to have these hot streaks? Do you think that they could sit there and believe that? I mean, obviously they do. I'm just throwing it out there so you could comment on it. But I obviously think that they think that because they had a hot streak for like 15, 20 games, that they might think that they might be able to get that to run the whole season. Your thoughts on that?
When they have their regular lineup, it's
Mm-hmm.
possible. When they got those guys back, remember I hopped in April when they had that lineup. They had 5 guys hitting $150. That pissed me off.
Mm-hmm.
But they started getting those guys back, and it looked like they had like a legit lineup. And then in August, they just all at the same time was striking out ridiculous. You had one guy maybe or 2 guys hitting. Like they got to get consistency from everybody every night. And
Mm-hmm.
if you want to compare the 2014, they had like just about all-star caliber guys almost at every position, and you're not going to have that anymore. And so they're going to continue to struggle until they listen. We've been harping on John Henry not spending money. He's still not going to spend money. So until he does, we're stuck with what we're stuck with. Now they're talking about bringing all these young guys up from Worcester. So and so sitting 320 at AA, and so sitting 330, and now they got another guy coming in. Maybe might play second base. It's like, listen. Stop pussyfooting around. Get an ace, get a real second baseman, or shift Trevor Story to second base and put me Rafaela at shortstop and stop screwing around. Or put Rafaela at shortstop, or whatever it is, but beef up that lineup and get some guys that can legit hit. I mean, bringing back Tyler O'Neill. Yeah, 32 home runs, but only 60 RBIs. A lot of his home runs were solo homers, and he's not that great defensively, so that he can't come back. They need a legit thumper in the middle of the lineup. Whether or not they want to spend for it, again, that's we could talk about it till we're blue in the face, but I don't see anything. I'm not believing anything they say until I actually physically see them actually make some kind of moves to make the team better.
Yeah, and before I move on, because I want to move on, what are your thoughts on this New York Yankees, and Los Angeles Dodgers World Series? Because usually in the World Series, I pull for somebody. This is probably one of the first World Series in a long time where I don't really care. I want both teams to lose, and I've been seeing a lot of Red Sox fans on social media of saying, "Hey, let's go for the Dodgers, go for the Dodgers." And this is gonna sound horrible coming out of my mouth, but I'm feeling like I think I'd rather go for the Yankees only because I got Steve, I got really scorned by this Mookie Betts thing. You know what I mean? I just it's bothered me for years, like years upon years upon years. And I don't honestly, Steve, I don't want either one of them to win. I want if there could be a World Series and both of them lose, I'd be the happiest person. But I don't know. I mean, no, I do know. I don't like the Yankees. I really, really don't like the Yankees. I don't want to see any of them win. I don't know. I'm just I'm at a crossroads. I don't know. So, Steve, in this last, 30 seconds, help convince me to come over to the side that probably is the Dodgers side, I guess. You know what I mean? The lesser two evils, I guess. I don't know. Help me.
Okay. First of all, I hate the Yankees. We've hated the Yankees since we were
Forever.
kids.
Yeah.
That's never going to change. You actually had to wear the jersey, so you should be scorned by that.
I am.
Right? So that should be reason. That should be reason enough for you not to want the Yankees to win. Listen, I'm actually kind of glad both those teams made it. You know why? Because if Detroit had made it with their $18 million payroll, the Red Sox would have had more justification not to spend money. So I'm glad they're both in it. I'm not rooting for the Yankees because I don't like them at all. I don't care. I hate them. I want Mookie Betts to succeed. I like him. I want him to do just like Bruce Cassidy did and stick to the Red Sox. So if he wins, I'm going to be happy. Shohei Ohtani, number one superstar in the game, get him a championship so he can, he's already cemented as, one of the all-time greats, but that cements his legacy. I like Dave Roberts. A lot of people probably don't. They're like, oh, if he loses, he's going to get fired. He's a good manager. He's been a good manager for them. So, look, I'm going Dodgers just because I hate the Yankees. And back when we were kids, the Yankees played the Dodgers back to back in the '70s, beat them both times, and then finally in '81 with Tommy Lasorda and Fernando Valenzuela, they beat him.
Yeah.
And so, you know what? Rest in peace, Fernando Valenzuela, and help the Dodgers out and help them do it again. That's what I want to see.
Well, I was really rooting for the Mets. I really wanted the Mets to beat the Dodgers. Because I didn't want either one team.
It would have been more interesting to have the Subway Series again, I think.
Yeah, it really would have been. And lastly, before we move on, I just want to say that Fox, who's going to be broadcasting the World Series, came out about 40 minutes ago, and said that the first two games of the World Series are sold out, not for ad inventory for television, and that hasn't happened in over 15 years, which is mind-boggling. So a lot of people at home, the Asian community is going to be tuning in because they want to see obviously Shohei Ohtani, and I'm very happy for him. Like, that guy is going to change the way that baseball is going to be looked at worldwide, because now scouts are going to not only just be going to Asia, they're going all over the rest of the world to see, because people are playing baseball everywhere. You know what I mean? And I'm sure there's some great hitters somewhere, and not just obviously in the Latino community and in the Asian community. It's baseball players everywhere. So that helps with the immigration movement coming in. I'm happy for that. I'm happy for Mookie Betts as a person. I just don't want him to win, because it'd be another Red Sox player who got out and we got a World Series. That's the part that's.
But he's not coming back here for another. He's not coming back. His contract runs another 10 years. So
yeah, ever. He's never coming.
He's out there. So I'd rather have him win than anybody else.
All right, let's move on. And I want to move on to the Boston Bruins, because the Boston Bruins, man, I don't understand what the hell is going on with the Boston Bruins. There's some things that's going on that I'm sure you're going to want to talk about. But where in the world? You ever hear that? Where's Waldo? Where's Waldo?
Where's Waldo?
Where's Waldo?
Where's the Bruins?
Yeah, with the Bruins and their offense, I think it should be say where's Waldo's offense, or meaning where's Bruins offense? Like, what happened? Where'd they go? Like, what happened to this? Is not the same Bruins team. Steve, what happened? Tell me. I didn't even look at your notes yet. I didn't even look at the. I've been reading the Bruins, listening to the Bruins, and I'm like, their offense has gone missing, and they've been showing a bad offensive. Looking for the second line and third line for the last 3 and 4 games. And I'm like, oh my God, Steve is going to just have a conniption. So, Steve, now's the time for you to have your conniption, I guess. Explain to me what happened.
The Bruins offense is dressing up as a ghost for Halloween.
Oh, okay. Casper. They're being Casper?
I don't know about Casper, but it's not going to be friendly. Look, this is what happens when you get yourself, again, in a salary cap tight spot. They let 2 guys go that scored goals, and I'm not heartbroken over either one of those guys leaving, but they could not replace them with a legit second line scoring winger, because they had to pay Jeremy Swayman $8+ million a year. And so now they're right up against the cap again. And so now Jim Montgomery's trying to mix match the lines to try to find the right combinations for their offense to have some success. And again, we talked earlier before training camp started that they were hoping that the 2 guys down in Providence, one of them would step up. Fabian Lysell, the number 1 pick from a few years ago, he's been a bust. So it's going to be a struggle, and it's a bad sign when the 4th line's been playing the best out of all the lines. I mean, they're contributing, and so the contributions that they are making should be to enhance what they already have, but they're actually providing most of the scoring. That's not a good sign for a team that wants to contend for a Stanley Cup. So I just think that because of the changes, even with the new guy they signed, Lindholm, the center, I think there's an adjustment period, because now you have to find the right guys to play with him to put together. And so, again, it's early, right? We talk about, nobody wins Stanley Cups in October, November, and December. That they are going to need 20 games or so to get acclimated to each other, and hopefully at some point those guys will hold on, Tim. Hopefully those guys will find a way to get some continuity, just like we talk about Patriots offensive line. Those guys need continuity too. They need to practice well together. They need to play well in the games together. And again, like I told you, it's a condensed schedule. They're playing almost every other day. It's really hard, like, when you have that much change, if you have a game and then 3 days off, and then a game and then a couple days off, and a game and then 3 days off, and again, like, you have time to practice and gel together. But when you have a game every other day, man, it's going to be a struggle. And so, Marchand's not playing the level he's used to playing at. He's
Mhm.
36 years old. So maybe he's not lost a step, but he's in decline a tad.
That could be the games though. That could be playing so much. Maybe it's it's wearing on his body. You know what I mean?
I think that it has more to do with who he's playing with, and how they're trying to score, and the plays that they're trying to make.
Mm-hmm.
I watched the game the other night, the Utah game Saturday night. I watched the first couple periods, and they just couldn't generate any offense. They couldn't get any shots on goal. As Tim pointed out too, they have to stay out of the penalty box. I just saw a graphic in the first period. They're one of the most penalized teams in the league. They got 35 penalties already in 4 games. That's way too many. That's like the Patriots getting 9 or 12 in a game.
Mm-hmm.
They can't withstand being shorthanded as much as that. And something else that's pissing me off, and it always pisses me off, is the effing powerless play. They gave up these shorthanded chances. They gave up a shorthanded chance again earlier, and so the power play is struggling. Everything is struggling all at once, and it's just not a good sign. And Swayman's playing okay.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, where's the scrap at though, Steve? Do you think that they have scrap left in the team? Do you think that there's because there's so much there's so much change, there's so many new players and mixing and matching, but they obviously have the same management, same GM. They have some of the same nucleus, obviously that they've had for the last 3 years, from upstairs all the way down to the management. Do you think that scrap is still there and it's coming out, or was it because of so many personalities now they're trying to figure out how to gel them all together? Because we all know when you get new like look at again 2004 Red Sox, when they brought in 2003 Red Sox, and they brought in so many new players, it took those teams both years half a season to gel, to pick up steam both times.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Do you think that's part of it with the Boston Bruins? Do you think that could be a major part?
Yeah, they have scrap. I mean, the fourth line is wicked scrappy. I mean, and they're playing with energy, and that has to trickle up towards the other guys. And so in the first period, I saw a little bit of that. I mean, I saw them hustling.
Mm-hmm.
They were getting to pucks. They were getting beat in the corners to all the pucks before. I mean, they're fighting for the pucks in tonight's game anyway. At least they're going to need more of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so that tells me that despite what happened the other day, we'll get to that in a minute, they haven't totally quit on the coach. They haven't tuned them out completely. So, you could see right away if they had quit, if they didn't have any scrap or any fight. Tim, missing core leadership. Bergeron and Krejci, but with 2 years
on the show instead of just you.
Yeah, Tim should just log in and join us. I mean.
And just say what you guys. We got a good 8 minutes left on the Bruins. Tim, stop texting. Just jump on the show for a second.
Yeah, come on in, Tim.
Yeah, go ahead. Listen, I'm listening. Go ahead.
Look, losing core leadership, but we're 2 years past that now. I mean, they have leadership. You have Marchand, right. You have the guys they have that have been there already. Now with Bergeron, they played with Bergeron and Krejci. And I'm talking about Pastrnak, Marchand, McAvoy, Coyle. Look, there's enough leaders there. They have a few young guys, but again, it's about finding the right combinations, and moving guys around. Jim Montgomery shuffled all the lines around again for the second game in a row. He put Zacha back at center. He put Potter on right wing. He put Pastrnak on the top line with Marchand and Lindholm. I mean, look, that's going to take some time. So there has to be some improvement, is what we need to see. And again, it takes time. Like if they fired him, Jim Montgomery, after 10 games because they were under 500, I mean, that's stupid. Right? Really, we talked about it last week.
Right.
It really probably going to take them until about Thanksgiving. That's about 20 to 25 games to see how the teams. I mean, unless they lose, like you said, a wicked losing streak, and they lose like 8 or 9 in a row, and they're playing like garbage completely, and they're getting shut out 4-0 every game or whatever, and they're getting hammered the way the Patriots getting hammered. Then it's a clear sign that he needs to go. But I don't believe that to be the case.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay, so let me throw this out there to you, Steve. Now that we realize that they've been horrible on the road trip and everything else, talk to me about the road trip and talk to me about the bright, positive things that you've seen. Because we just gone down the road of all the negative stuff. positive things you've seen, because usually, especially in the last 2 seasons, the Bruins came out the gate on fire. They've been coming out, and now this season they're not at all. So what are positives that you see that you think that they will build on?
Well, Jeremy Swayman, I think you got to start there. I mean, for a guy that had no training camp, he's kept him in mostly all the games except for the last one. He's played well tonight, standing on his head. I mean, they gave up a goal, but that wasn't his fault. There's one, Matt Poitras, a guy that had shoulder surgery last year, and they lost him for a big chunk of the season. He made a wicked nice play behind the net, stole the puck, passed out in front of Pastrnak. He's a talented kid. He's definitely a bright spot. I would say the guys on the fourth line, Kepke, who got moved to the third line tonight, him and Kostelic, they got in the trade from Ottawa. He's been good. He's been solid. He's not afraid to mix it up. He's scored some goals. So those are definitely bright spots for this team. I think they just need a little bit more out of the guys that have been here, like Zaka, Coyle, Frederick. Frederick really hasn't got his feet going and scored any goals. So they need better contributions from those guys. Pasternak's going to get his 40 or 50 goals or whatever, so that's not going to change. But I think there's definitely some upside. Brazeau, he's a talented young kid. So look, there's definitely upside with these guys. It's just a matter of getting their crap together and finding their footing and see what they can do.
All right, Sports Talk Radio said literally that the Bruins seem to be a step behind on a lot of plays, just a half a step behind, a half a second behind. Now, mind you, I haven't seen it myself because when they were on, I was watching the Celtics game. But I will say, that when you're half a step behind, I think it's because you're hesitant because you don't know the guy next to you to the right. When I played sports, and obviously I'm not a pro, but when I did talk to pros and things like that over the years, I've always heard that when you're half a step behind, it's only because you don't know. You can't anticipate somebody, because you're still new with them. Does that make sense to you, Steve? Do you think that's a possibility?
Yeah, that goes back to what I was saying about not having enough practice time, right, with those guys. And look, I played street hockey, and it's not the same, obviously.
Right.
But again, you got to put the right guys with the right guys and have them work it out together and get the right combinations, and that takes time too. So look, it's early. There's going to be frustration, right? People around here like Negative Ned that have no patience. They're going to want people fired or get people lit up or whatever. But I think that this is like a reality check that they're not going to steamroll everybody and come out 9-1, and they're not going to be in first place all year long, and they're going to have to scrap and get their stuff together. Pray that they stay healthy the whole year, because that's going to play a factor too. But yeah, across, no matter what you play, unless it's golf, I mean, all the sports you play together with people, you have to gel with them and feed off each other and so on and so forth. And hopefully there'll be some combinations that can find that chemistry. Yep, Tim just had a baby recently a few months ago, so he's on baby duty. That's why he can't jump on. But he just said chemistry is a massive in the NHL. And Denise is on, says hi. So hi, Denise, we see you. Again, when Jim Montgomery is going to have to keep shuffling the lines around until he finds what he likes. Right? Well, with the shortened season, shortened condensed practice periods, it's more difficult.
I'll leave it with this, and I'll let you get the last point in across this. I'd rather have any team, whether it's the Bruins, Red Sox, Patriots. I don't care. I'd rather have a team start off like this and start to get hot mid-season and take the heat towards the end of the season, because it carries over, versus you starting hot and then you get bored because you're so good. And we've seen what happens with a lot of times with teams like that. They're so good they get bored, and then they can't pick it back up when it counts, because now they're cold. You know what I mean? And then next thing you know, they get first round exits or they get second round exits, but they don't win the championship when you start out so hot. You know what I mean? So
it was too easy for them early on, so they expect it to be just as easy later on, and that's not always the case. So I agree with you. I'm not a fan of starting, 20-1 or whatever, because it never does anything. And listen, go back 2 years ago when everybody around here in December wanted to anoint the Bruins as Stanley Cup champions, and I wasn't having it. And I'm not tooting my own horn or anything, but to your point, in April when it came around, they just didn't have enough left, and they couldn't get the job done. I do want to touch on one more thing real quick because it's just becoming a hot topic around here on sports radio. Is the dust up between Montgomery and Marchand. Marchand had a bad turnover in the Utah game. It gave up. That turnover turned into a goal, which fortunately was disallowed because they were offside. But Montgomery went over and yelled at Marchand and poked him in the back or whatever. And so now everybody around here is like, oh my God, he lit into Marchand, and the coaches aren't supposed to do that to the star players, and he's the captain and this and that, and it's going to cause disruption in the locker room. And so both those guys came out today and pretty much squashed that. And so I kind of want to get your thoughts on, and it doesn't have to be the Bruins, it can be other sports, how you feel about the coaches laying into the star players like that.
I knew you were going to ask me this because I had heard about it. I listen to sports talk radio and everything else, and I looked at the replay, and when it happens, because it has happened a lot of times and over there, it really depends on the personality of the star and depends the personality of the coach. You go back to look at Reggie Jackson and how he used to have really bad issues with, oh my God, his
Billy Martin.
Billy Martin. They had really bad issues, but I don't know if you remember this, but when they had a huge fallout in the middle of the season and everything else, they took that momentum, and I'm using this as an analogy, and they turned it around, and the Yankees went and steamrolled everybody. You know what I mean? Because they got on one accord, and they won the World Series that year. That big year.
Well, Frank, that year they fired Billy Martin in July. When they were behind by 4.
That year. I'm not talking about the year when they had the almost they came to blows. Talk about I think.
That was in '77, I think, in the dugout. I remember that when Billy Martin took him out of the game for loafing or whatever on the ball.
See, you remember?
Yeah, I remember because I was watching it live when it happened.
Yeah, me too.
That's something you don't forget. But and they did end up winning the World Series that year. You're right. They beat the Dodgers.
Yeah, but my point of bringing that up is it really depends on the personality of the players, because it doesn't matter what sport you're in. The personality of the star and the personality of the manager / coach and everything else like that, because it depends on how they are perceived to themselves. And now, especially now today, how they will be perceived on social media, because it's even a little bit different to the extent now. These kids now, they grew up in the social media era, so they're more cognizant of what everybody's going to be saying because they can see it now, versus when Billy Martin was doing that with Reggie Jackson. They couldn't, they saw what the reporters were saying, and, people called up station, but it wasn't the biggest, it wasn't so big, big thing like it is today. So I don't know. I mean, this is my thought process on that. But you know what? We'll see on how it affects the team moving forward. I will say this: I'm glad it happened early on versus happening after the All-Star break, because that could have been catastrophe. Right there, willing to happen. Let's move on.
I will give Marchand some credit though. He took accountability for the play.
Yeah,
and he said that he needed to be better, and he said that he expected to hear from the coach and some of the other guys on the bench for making a bad play. And so that's rare right now today, the way things are, to have a guy take that kind of accountability. And he said pretty much that it's kind of sad that people are talking about this now, because that's the situation we're in with the social media and whatnot. So I think, look, they're going to be fine. I think if it was a real problem, then they would have fired Montgomery.
Right. But personality issue, like I said, personality. Let's talk now about the New England Patriots, because the New England Patriots now are imploding. You know what I mean? As a team, the roster's having issues. The wide receiver group's having issues. And if you haven't seen anything, you've been hidden under a rock. The Patriots went overseas, and Steve predicted it. He did say that the Jacksonville Jaguars had been over there for 2 weeks, and they were going to be better. And I will say this. When I made my prediction, I did not know at the time that the Patriots were thinking about going overseas on Saturday, getting those guys, trying to get them implemented, and then trying to get them adjusted. Or was it Friday night? Whatever.
It was Friday, I think they went over there, which is like late.
Too late. It's too late. It's too late, because you got to get, I know I've traveled overseas. You got to get adjusted to the time difference, which is huge. And then you got to get adjusted to the food, which is the reason why a lot of those guys weren't playing to their strength and everything else, because like Pop Douglas said, he was vomiting the whole time during the whole game. You know what I mean? Now, when you're losing body fluids and you're trying to play football, I can't even imagine what that must feel like. Because when I was losing body fluid, I was just trying to walk around the town. You know what I mean? I was just, and I was weak. You know what I mean? It was horrible for me. Can't even imagine playing football. But first of all, before we dive into that, let's talk about the game. Because in the game, Drake May came out, Steve, and Drake May was doing some Drake May issues and everything else. you could check off all the boxes because the Patriots did everything wrong that you can think of, and all the boxes. It's the same thing we're complaining about, Steve, every single week. But I will say this: the only bright spot I had was that, and I thought was Drake May, because when he had time to execute, and you gave him a few minutes, he moved the ball. He was able to hit some guys on the run and everything else. But I was so angry when I walked away because I don't think I saw. No, I didn't see that game. I did see that game live. I think I was so angry. I did not see that game live because I went to church and I had to watch a replay. I was so angry at the play calling, Steve. So I'll throw it to you and you tell me what your and I know you have a list of stuff, but again, it's your same list, I'm pretty sure, because every department, and they're getting worse, Steve. They're getting worse. So anyway, tell me your thoughts.
All right. So look, early on in the game when they went up 10-0, I was like, wow, this is great. The
Mhm.
offense moved the ball, they scored in the opening drive, they made
Right.
plays. And then the second drive, like they should have had a touchdown. They got stalled. Well, look, you're up 10-0. And then the defense makes they make Jacksonville look like freaking what's the quarterback's name there? Trevor Lawrence. They make him look like Patrick Mahomes, and they're giving up all these chunk yards passing. And next thing you know, it's 14-0 or whatever it is. And then all of a sudden, the stupid special teams
Yeah.
guys gave up that touchdown. And all of a sudden, it's 22-10. I'm like, you blink. It's like, what the hell just happened?
Yeah.
Right? So, look, I'm frustrated with, and look, I went on kind of a little mini tirade over Brandon Schooler getting signed for 3 years. He overran the coverage. He overran the guy by 10 yards. I'm like, dude, you're supposed to be like more towards the middle. You let the guy drag you out. And then there was another guy in the middle, and I forget his name and number because they called it on the replay yesterday that should have had him. But still, special teams is still an issue 3 years later now. 2 years in a row with Belichick, and now this year with Mayo, and they still haven't fixed it. So that's a big deflator. And then the defense gets ran on 17 times in a row and couldn't stop them. I thought I was playing Tecmo Bowl. It looked like Tecmo Bowl with Bo Jackson running back there. They just couldn't buy a stop. They couldn't do anything. But they didn't adjust either. They didn't try to put more guys in the box to stop the run and force them to pass. They just kind of let it happen. And so they had to have been deflated. They had to have been demoralized during the game. And it turned ugly. I mean, it's not supposed to be that way. They're supposed to, like you said, they're not getting better because they're not making adjustments and they're not. Look, injuries aside, right? We know the injuries they have, but these guys, instead of looking at like, oh, we're missing Bentley and we're missing Judon's gone, like the guys that are in there, like this is your opportunity. Like this is your chance to shine. This is you want playing time. You got it. Like do something.
Yeah. I agree with that part. But let's even talk. I agree with everything you said except the special teams. I think the special teams have maybe 2 bad games out of 6. You know what I mean? I think I'm not going to say special teams is trash like the rest of the team. I think honestly, as a unit, they're probably the best unit on the team. Honestly,
probably. But in that particular instance, where you're already behind, they that play caused them to be behind by 22-10. That's I wouldn't say cause them to lose the game, but it's a huge momentum swing, and they couldn't recover.
I call you that caused them to lose the game because the Patriots are not a team that can come from behind and overtake you. They have to at least be close and then be able to do that because Van Pelt is not calling plays that they're going to be throwing the ball all the way down the field to catch back up if they go down by 21 points or 14. He's just not doing it. He's calling screens. He's calling bubble screens. He's calling curls. He's doing everything he can do within 5 to 7 yards. And that's what they're going to just do. Drake May looks like to me, and I don't see the playbook and stuff like that, but he's looked like he sees certain things, he makes some calls, he changes some things at the line, and then whatever he sees, he goes for it. And I think that's the difference that we're seeing right now. I really don't think that Van Pelt, like on those 2 plays when he threw it for 40 yards and then another for 30, I don't think those were plays that were called. I think they were changes at the line because I watched that game twice. But before I even get into diving more into the game, obviously the result of the game had Jared Mayo calling out the team and calling them soft and everything else. And in my opinion, Steve, I'm going to go on record right now. In my opinion, this is the game where he lost the team for the whole season to me. Now, I don't know about you, but I can't see a pro football player in any way liking to be called soft in the public eye. Now, I know Belichick called them soft a billion times behind the scenes, and I'm sure they hated that, that whole team hated that whenever they would call that. But I'm sure it does not bother any man as much as it would if you're calling me soft to the entire public, and then you're going to reiterate that, and then it becomes obviously the whole conversation of the week leading up to the next game. You know what I mean? I think this would be the game where we could sit back and say, remember that game when they played Jacksonville and he came out on that Sunday afternoon right after the game and he said the team was soft? I think when he gets fired, because I think he's on that path to get fired, and it's not going to happen at the end of the season. I think Van Pelt will probably get fired at the end of the season. But I think we'll sit back and say, yeah, this was the team, this was the game, circle it. That's the way I'm taking it. Now, Steve, my question to you is, do you think it's going to motivate the team being called soft and get them to play a hell of a lot better with Aaron Rodgers and the Jets? That's if Aaron Rodgers plays, because again, today some news came out that he might not even play on Sunday, and that's Aaron Rodgers doing what Aaron Rodgers does, always trying to bail on your team. That's a whole nother conversation. We don't have enough time to go on that. But do you think it's going to motivate the Patriots to play harder and basically try their best to kick the Jets' butt, or do you think the players now going to give up and go for self? I mean, pad their stats so they can get individual contracts.
I think they're already doing that. I think that's part of the reason they're losing the way they are. When other players on the team, and I'm getting off track a little bit. When players on the team like Godshaw call out guys like Keon White for going off and doing their own thing, and I heard this yesterday or the day before on the sports radio shows, is that these guys are not playing within the scheme. They're not following the coaching. So I think they're already partially doing that. Now, being called soft, first of all, that's a huge no-no for a guy that has no credit. Bill Parcells can get away with it. Bill Belichick can get away with it. Now, Bill Belichick did not, but those are guys that if they came out and said, hey, my team's soft, my team's playing like crap, well, okay, right? But this guy is new. He's a rookie, and he's been around here. He knows that he shouldn't be doing that. And I don't think it's going to motivate those guys. I also don't think it's going to tear the locker room apart. I think what it's going to do is force each of those guys to look in the mirror at themselves, regardless of the coach, and be like, okay, I have to be the best I can be, and make plays and do my job. That's what they should be doing. Forget the soft part of it. Nobody wants to be called soft. I don't think he was right to call them out in the media like that. Even Belichick, when they got blown up, go back. When they got blown up by Kansas City, right? That Monday night, he said, hey, it's coaching too. It's all of us, blah, blah. We have to coach better, play better, blah, blah. So he took accountability and looked at himself and didn't throw the players under the bus publicly. Now, again, privately in a meeting, he could have been like, Foxborough High couldn't play, whatever. He berated them behind closed doors and left it there. That's where it should stay. Now, I also think that because Mayo is trying to be more of a player's coach and let these guys do their thing on social media and cut them a little bit of slack and then try to play tough guy, that doesn't work. You can't change like that. And in order to get the locker room back, if I was him, if he didn't do it already, you should have did, if they had Monday off, all right, Tuesday, we're having a meeting. Okay, no more airing the dirty laundry on social media. If you do, you're getting fined the maximum fine, whatever it is, I'm allowed, 5, 10, 20 grand, and you're not playing. You're going to sit the game. We're going to keep, and he should come out right away and say, I'm going to do a better job of making sure we keep everything in house, and I expect you guys to do the same. Because he has to do that. If he doesn't do that, and he doesn't stop talking and stop saying stupid stuff and throwing the players under the bus publicly, then yes, I agree with you. It will get worse before it gets better. And so he's going to last the rest of the year. They're not going to fire him, right? And so we have to see improvement. You have 10 games left. They're going to, let's say they suck this week. Let's say they get blown out again by 20 points. It's ugly, blah, blah. But going forward, maybe there's progress made towards the end of the year and their last like 5 or 6 games. They're closer. It's, they lose by 7, lose by 3. Last year, they lost a lot of close games, 10-6, 6-0. If we see that, I don't want to see 10-6 or 6-0. I'm just saying if they're losing games 20-17 or 24-20 or it looks better and the defense looks better and they're not getting bowled over and crushed. If he is showing that he has control of the locker room and the players are buying in, then he's got a chance to stay.
Right.
If they don't buy in, like to your point, if they're already like, hey, F this, I'm going to just go, put up numbers and get another contract. I'm done with this guy. If they do that, they'll suck the rest of the year, and he's going to be gone.
Right. Last question. I'm going to leave you with this. Last statement and last question. I'm thinking that the Patriots right now should be, even though it's the middle of the season and everything else. And then I'll say this too. There was a report yesterday came out that Jared Mayo, if he loses 2 more games as badly as he did, he's going to be fired mid-season. And I was like, and it came from a reputable sources that I normally I don't see it, but that's the talk in Foxborough right now. But my last statement is going to be this: do you think? I think personally that the Patriots need to start leaning back on what Drake May's abilities are, because he's showing bright spots to a lot of people, you know what I mean, on the team, into the NFL. I'm thinking that it could lead to the Patriots making a blockbuster trade for a wide receiver during the offseason. You know what I mean? So I'm going to leave you my question with Steve, and Steve, try to keep it short because the time is ticking against us. Do you think that the Patriots are going to make some blockbuster moves during the off season, and if so, where do you think that they would do them at? What's your thoughts?
I agree with you. I think they need to make a blockbuster trade for a wide receiver. How they do it, or how they get it, or who they get, I don't care at this point. They're going to have to spend $30 million if they went after Ayuk for real, and they were willing to spend $30-something million on a guy. Then they can do it. And I agree with you that they do need to put more plays in for the guys they have. Kayshon Boutte, 40 yards down the field. Let's see some more of that, right? Pop Douglas gets open 35 yards. Let's see some more of that. And even KJ Osborne, as unhappy as he is, if he can get open, and Kendrick Bourne, I agree with you. Like, look, I don't want them to be thrown at 50 times a game because that's a recipe for disaster. But they should be in the 30-ish range and be able to, and the thing is, they have to be able to run the football. But they what's the word that they use? Drive the ball down the field. Drake May's doing that. So we need to see more of that the rest of the year. I think we will. And then add a wide receiver, a top wide receiver, should be one of their top goals in the offseason. And then that will help May, and obviously, drafting a left tackle and so forth. But listen, go back to Elliott Wolf, because if he doesn't do it in March or April this year coming up, in the offseason coming up, weaponize the offense. It's not weaponized right now. So if he doesn't do that, then Drake May still won't have a chance next year, regardless of who the OC is. If they brought back, I take it back. If they brought Josh McDaniels back here with the guys they have, it would look better, but not as good. It would look a lot better, but not as good as if they had a number one guy. Too.
Right. Well, we've been saying it for weeks. They're one wide receiver away of changing the entire offense, because with Kendrick Bourne, Boutte, Pop Douglas, all those guys moved down. Pop Douglas now becomes your obviously a slot receiver. Boutte and whoever the slot receiver, the number one is, Kendrick Bourne. Those three guys now your top three wideouts with Drake May's arm now, and a great left tackle. Now your offense looks a lot better. So I don't know, but we got to move on because we got 10 more minutes. I want to talk about the Celtics and get this stuff in real fast, because I really want to get to some of these predictions and see what your thoughts are on some future predictions, that you may have. So let's talk about the Celtics real quick. Celtics came out the other night. They hit so many threes. It was raining bombs and I loved every minute of it, because you guys don't even know how many New York Knicks fans I have in my feed, or who texted me, or who called me and was saying all kinds of stuff before the game. And when I tell you, I was the happiest camper. But it also let me know something else, Steve, and I'm gonna throw this out there real fast. I think the Celtics philosophy now is even heavier relying on the three, which is pretty obvious. But now, because they have the slashes to the basket and everything else, they're daring you to defend them on the three. And when Washington was trying to do that earlier tonight, it was starting to happen, because Washington, Wizards tried that again, defending the three tonight. But then the Celtics, while I was watching the game, started showing that they could score inside too. So I guess the thing is now, they're going to probably, like how Golden State was a couple of years ago, 5-7 years ago, when they changed, especially with Steph Curry, they changed the way the game was played. I think the Celtics are pushing more to that process of, that's the only way you're going to be able to win in the NBA now, is by shooting 60 and 73s and hoping to hit 28 25, 24 of them to win the game. You know what I mean? What's your thoughts on this, Steve?
I hate it.
Yeah, I hate it too.
I hate all the threes. I can't stand it, but I understand it. I get it. It's analytic driven. Joe Mazzulla said it last year. The number one stat is not how many you make, it's how many you take.
Yeah.
Right. So they're going to keep chucking up 50 to 63s a night, whether I like it or not. So, listen, again, we've been talking about this for 2 years. When they go in, it's great. When they don't go in, it sucks. And you just got to hope that they're smart enough to adjust. And like you said earlier, they did. They'll start going inside and get to the basket. And so, look, I think that they're one of the best teams at that. When Jason Tatum's getting to the line 10, 12 times and Jaylen Brown's getting to the line 8, 10 times, like they have a dual dynamic now. To me, it's a complete offense because they've actually recognized that they don't have to just chuck up 53s in a game and then be forced to lose. They can change it around. And again, knowing what I know now after seeing them win the championship, I'm not going to be as upset if they lose a game and blow a 20-point lead, because I know the next time around, they're probably going to win by 20 or whatever, and it's going to be the same formula all year long, and they have the best team, and they have the deepest bench. And so in a game where they blew out New York, Pritchett was 1 for 10 from the floor and 1 from 9 from 3, and Hauser was 2 for 7. And so all the rest of the guys were all on fire, and those two guys were off, and that's okay. It's only when all of them are off, and Jason Tatum's 1 for 10, and then Pritchett's 1 for 10. Like, there has to be a balance there. So if Jason Tatum or Brown are off, then the other guys have to pick up the slack, and I think they will.
Well, mathematically, if you're taking 63s and you hit 20 of them, mathematically, you're going to win those games 9 times out of 10. Mathematically, the Celtics had only 10 games last year, only 10 when the entire team literally was missing everything. And they lost, 9 of those? You know what I mean? 9 of those
Something
games.
like that, yeah.
Yeah. So they had more losses for the year, but I'm talking about when they were shooting that many threes, you know what I mean? And when everybody was losing. There's only maybe 3 or 4 games when they were hitting some shots, but the other team was hotter than they were. It might have been only 3 or 4 of those games last year.
It was before February, I think, because
no,
after
it definitely
that,
was. It was early
on.
It
was earlier in the year, and I think they adjusted in March when the playoffs came. We talked about it.
Yeah. But my point is saying, to even bring that up, is I don't think they're going to stop doing that anyway. And Joe Mazzulla is one of the smartest coaches now, because I see what he's doing. I still hate his coaching style, but I understand what he's doing, because mathematically, and you can't deny the statistics. Like, if you hit so many of these, 9 times out of 10, you're going to win those games, because you're going to hit X amount, because you have nothing but shooters on your team. They have, every time they're on the floor, the Celtics have 4 out of 5 people who are shooters who can shoot from the 3 every single time. They never put out a team. They never put out, a team on the floor where they only have 2 or 3 good 3-point shooters on the. They don't do it.
There's another element that they have that a lot of teams don't have either, and that's
right.
Their top 5 defense.
Yep.
They're one of the top probably 3 teams in defense, and so even if they miss a few threes, when they come down the other end, they're playing tough D, and they're making it hard. They're making it hard on the other guys to score. So
yeah,
I think that they have to play that way. If they slacked on defense, they'd get waxed. So it's a good combination for them. I look at the steals they had the other night. Each guy that started the game last week had a steal. They had 6 steals as a team. That's good. A bunch of blocks. I mean,
a lot of rebounds.
A boatload. Yeah. I mean, I think they rebounded the Knicks by 20 or something like that. So, look, that's a key for them. Mm-hmm. That even if the shots aren't going in from 3, they can still win a game with defense and slash into the basket and win a close game.
And that's how you win these games. You know what I mean? You get second chance points, you get second chance rebounds, you move the basket, you play defense, and you hit your shots. That's how you win. And they've got the formula. Let's move on now, because I want to. Steve, you got your stuff open for you. I want to be able to hit.
I got
it. Tell us, everybody out there, what the poll questions were. Let's knock these poll questions out. Because then, I want to get to the predictions, and then I got some predictions that I want to make. And I want to get out clearly, because I have some stuff pressing on my brain. So let's go first. You go. Go ahead.
Poll questions. First poll question: if the Patriots lose to Jacksonville in London, should Alex Van Pelt get fired?
Yes.
Yes. His play calling stinks. 60% yes. No. Too many OCs already. 40%. Mm-hmm. So the majority favors firing him, even though it's not going to happen. They have to get progressively worse for that to happen. Now that Christian Baumo has apologized for his traffic stop, should the Patriots cut him? Yes, the team can't afford any more distractions. 0%. Nobody was in favor of that. And no, everyone deserves a second chance. 100%. I think that there's a lot of forgiveness around here, and I think we didn't get to touch on it. He did apologize, and I commend him for taking ownership and apologizing and going down to the police station and doing whatever he did. So, look, give him a second chance. He's more contrite than most of the guys are. He was remorseful, and that's all you can ask for. So I would say let's give him a second shot. All right, poll questions. Not poll questions. Predictions. Last week's predictions. Jeremy Swayman gets hurt last week. That was my first prediction. Wrong. What else is new? I did say that Jacksonville was going to beat the Patriots because the Patriots defense has a habit of making bad teams look good. Ding, ding, ding. Right on that one. Those are the only two I had. Frank, yours last week. Well, let me do Kev real quick because he had two.
Mm-hmm.
He said the Patriots are going to win big over Jacksonville. Way off. He also said Belichick will get a coaching job in the next 2 weeks. So he's got one more week. So that's TBD, to be determined.
I think you might be right with that one because what's happening with Dallas, if Dallas loses this week, I think he might be right.
If they get blown, I think if it's close, they won't. But if they got blown out, like again, 47-9 or something like that, I think definitely could be fired.
Yeah. Oh, not only fired, I think they'd be fired and Belichick will be hired.
That's what I was getting at. Yeah. I think that's a major possibility if they get doors blown off.
And guess what? They're playing San Francisco, and there's a great possibility of
is it San Francisco though, or is it in Dallas?
Dallas is playing San Francisco.
No, at home or are they on the road?
Oh,
where was the game? Where was the game? I have to look at it later. That's all right. We'll figure it out later.
Yeah.
That's actually. I know Sergeant Slaughter's not watching, but I hate Dallas and he loves them, so I'm hoping the 49ers kick the crap out of them.
Yeah, they will. They will.
All right. Mac Jones and Frank's predictions last week. Mac Jones gets the start. Mac Jones gets the start. I was like, what? Trevor Lawrence would have had to be in a coma for that to happen.
Well, I thought he was injured, because they were talking all week saying he was somewhat a little bit injured. So I thought Mac Jones was going to get the start. Because keep going.
All right. Patriots beat Jacksonville. Bruins major losing streak to be determined. They've lost 2 in a row. We'll have to wait and see what's going on tonight. I'll get an update on the score after. Let's see. Another midseason trade with wide receiver Kansas City in the mix. Ding, ding, ding. They traded for Hopkins yesterday from Tennessee.
Yep.
So Frank was all over it. We're going to see another coach get fired. I don't think any coaches got fired this week.
No, but there are a lot of coaches who got put on the hot
there's
seat.
going to be on the hot seat. That's ongoing.
Yeah, that one's wrong. I'll call it wrong for the week, but I still think somebody's going to get fired.
All right. And the Jacksonville coach fired after losing to the Patriots. That didn't happen. But that doesn't mean it can't happen this week, depending upon who they play and how badly they lose.
Okay.
Going to get to the football picks. Last week, Frank had 9 right and 6 wrong, and I had 12 right and 3 wrong. Luckily, I actually was like 8-1 at one point until the 4:00 games came around. And
I know you was happy. You was really happy with that point, yeah.
I was happy because I was like, "Oh wow, well, I'm actually winning." I didn't see stupid me pick the Jets to beat Pittsburgh. That was a mistake, and I really thought the Chargers were going to beat Arizona. Those are the 2 major ones that threw me from.
Those are 2 ones I had. I had the Jets beating it. I had Jets winning, and I had the Chargers winning, and that's 2 that I lost to. All right, so now time is not on our side. So let's just talk about real quick. What predictions do you see in any sport happening within the next week? Any sport? Wow, nothing on top.
Drawing a blank. You're gonna have to go. I'll come up with something. Hold on.
Okay. Well, while you think about that, these are predictions I'm going to go with right now. I think Jerry Jones is going to dig himself into a digger ditch when Dallas Cowboys lose to San Francisco 49ers. I think the fans are going to be screaming bloody hell high water for the coach to get fired and for them to do something. And honestly, I don't think the Cowboys are going to do anything. I think Jerry Jones is going to, because he is so stubborn, I think he's going to stick, I think he's going to stay with that. I think Russell Wilson, Pittsburgh Steelers, I don't even know who they're playing. I think he's going to have another good game. I don't have the picks in front of me. I don't
either. We'll get them.
Yeah, and I think we're going to see one more major wide receiver trade, and I think that wide person is going to be Cooper Kupp. I think Cooper Kupp is going to probably get traded to either I'm going to go on the room right now and say Detroit Lions. I think he's going to go to the Detroit Lions, or who else did I have? I had Detroit.
Green Bay,
No, no.
Minnesota, not
Philadelphia.
Minnesota.
Philadelphia. Yeah.
They
I
don't,
had
they don't really
Philadelphia.
need.
And I'm
Wouldn't
saying
see
those.
them going there. I
Yeah,
wouldn't see.
say that
I
again.
don't see him going there, but that's. I don't see him going there, but that's all right.
Well, the reason why I'm saying that is because Philadelphia has been lacking in their wide receiver play, and they feel that they still have a team that can still make moves and still do some stuff, and they're relying a lot on Saquon Barkley, who's helping to move the ball and push the ball down. But if they had a breakaway wide receiver, and Cooper Kupp right now is on the market for a third round or fourth round pick. You know what I mean? So somebody's going to make a pick trade for him, and it's going to change the trajectory of their team. You know what I mean? And honestly, the one that makes the most sense to me is the Detroit Lions, because Detroit just had a huge issue with one wide receiver for legal issues. If another wide receiver banged up, they still the number one seed in the NFC. If Cooper Kupp goes there, when that other wide receiver they have for legal troubles comes back, the other guy gets healed a little bit. That should be a shoe in to get them to the Super Bowl. You know what I mean? And I think that would be a great thing for them to get there. So that's my big.
All right, I got one.
Good.
Right. This is Patriots lose this week. Josh Uche gets traded to Detroit since they lost their star defensive tackle.
I could definitely see that.
Uche traded next week to Detroit.
I wouldn't say Detroit, because Detroit only has that one pick, and I think they're going to use that for Cooper Kupp. You know what I mean? That one pick. The Celtics, the Patriots are not going to get up Josh Uche for a third or fourth round pick.
They might have more draft capital than we realize, and they may be able to pull off two trades, because if they really want to get to the Super Bowl, they are going to need to replace the pass rusher that they lost. Yeah. So there's one. I had it on the tip of my tongue. I lost it.
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
Sorry.
I had another one. I do want to mention real quick. Thank you, Denise, for the update. Dallas 4, Bruins 2, start of the third period. So defensive breakdown sounds like to me, Frank. If they lose tonight, it'll be 3 in a row. So you're on your way to having ding ding ding
yes.
soon.
Yeah.
I know what I was going to say. Carolina, this is not really a stretch, but to your point, to have a coach getting fired, I think Carolina's coach is going to get fired this week. They have to put the young rookie quarterback back in. They're probably going to get croaked, and that's a guy I could see the owner having no patience again and restart from just getting trigger happy over there and firing the coach and being like, okay, this sucks. I want to start over again.
All right, so there it is. That's our show. Thank you for the predictions, and for those of you watching, we appreciate you continuing to watch. We're going to put up our picks, and we're going to say our picks and see how good we do amongst ourselves, and maybe we'll be able to brag about it. I'll throw this one more thing out there. I think the Bruins are going to lose tonight, and they're going to lose the next game after that, and then I think
they're playing Saturday night against Toronto. That's a distinct possibility. I would not rule that out at all.
So put me down for that pick too. Put me down.
Okay, so we're getting negative Swami Jr. over there now. Yeah, I'm rubbing off on you. I didn't even say that you were going to lose 4 in a row yet.
No, I think they're going to. But see, the difference is between you. I don't think that's going to tank their season. I think the loss of 4 in a row is going to get them to come together, and I think they're going to start turning things around, because their losses early to me are only because, like I said in the show, is only because they're trying to mix and match and trying to figure out what works. And once they figure out what works, they're going to be something that's going to happen amongst the team. Is going to get guys, and then we're going to say, "Oh my God!" By December, oh my God, these guys are playing really great. I think that's the issue. I think that's what all it is right now. So, because they're going to get pissed off, and you need to, as an athlete, your feelings need to really get hurt. You need to really get pissed off, because you can play better. It's one thing if you suck. You know what I mean? Like the Patriots suck, but the Patriots overall as a team, they have a lot of great athletes. The Patriots, a lot of their issue really is individual assignments being missed and coaching. Flat out, it's coaching.
The receivers aren't the issue, but the talent on the offensive line is an issue. So you have a talent deficit, and you have coaching deficit.
I don't even necessarily think a lot of it's talent. I think some of it's talent, but I think a lot of it's coaching. That's what Bill Belichick was trying to say on those podcasts and everything else when he said, that he didn't 100% say, and Gary Jarrett made. So.
Denise said, Frank, boo hiss on the Bruins predictions.
Tell Denise I said, go, Denise, since you're watching, I'm still a Bruins fan, but Denise, trust me, they're going to turn stuff around. It's going to take some time. And when teams gel, they gel and they go up. I don't think it's going to tank this season. I think they're going to be really, really good. All right, so we're getting ready to get up out of here. That's the show. This is the show called Boston Straight Shooters, where we talk about the Boston Celtics, and Steve really destroys the Boston Bruins. We talk about the Boston Red Sox and the New England Patriots. We might have to change the name of the show, the Negative Ned Show, just because he's so negative on all the teams. But I'm Frank. That's Steve. Steve, it's great seeing you. We'll see you next week.
Take it out. You too, Frank. Thank you again, everybody, for watching, participating in the polls, and commenting. We really appreciate the support. And stay tuned. And don't forget, we're on YouTube now. So like, subscribe, and share, etc., etc. And we'll see you guys next week. Have a good week.
Yeah.